What's up, YouTube? JM Comics here with a new type of video. I'm starting a video game review series, and these videos are about 20-25 minutes long, so be prepared to sit through a lot of talking and clips. And today I'm doing Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, a prequel for the ages. Recap of the past. 2020 was one of the worst years for any industry due to a number of different factors that we will not mention here. One industry that actually thrived during 2020 was the mask industry. That was a joke. But also the video game industry as well, since many people were stuck at home and in need of some entertainment. Enter the Nintendo Switch, which sold over 78 million units. However, Nintendo as a company was essentially radio silent about what big holiday game there would be for us Nintendo fans. Paper Mario the Origami King had been revealed via Twitter, dropped that summer, and Nintendo fans were eager and ready for an announcement soon. Nintendo finally came through on September 8, 2020, revealing Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, a prequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. While most Nintendo fans, not including myself, were hoping for Breath of the Wild 2 that year, Age of Calamity was a pleasant surprise nonetheless. Personally, I was fine with it because I wanted some space between Breath of the Wild 1 and 2 since they were such big games. Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity is a hack and slash game in the Warriors style, popularized by the Samurai and Dynasty Warriors franchises. It is an indirect sequel to the original Hyrule Warriors, and a direct prequel to Breath of the Wild. The game follows the storyline of Link, Zelda, Impa, and the Champions, prior to their appearances in Breath of the Wild. Along with returning characters, the game introduces many more, friends and foes alike, that provide even more backstory to the lore and the eventual downfall of Hyrule. But more on the story later. Let's start by going over that signature Koei Techmo Warriors style combat. As I will aim to do with every video game review on this channel, I have 100% completed Age of Calamity, collecting all of the Korok seeds, completing all of the missions, and unlocking every new ability for the characters. Do not expect me to always go 100%, but I will try my best. Not all games are humanely completed, since the first Hyrule Warriors is a 200 plus hour completion. But for the most part, I'd consider myself a completionist, so whenever I do one of these reviews, most of the time I will have 100% completed the game, and I will discuss it. Before we start the official video, remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below about this video or just Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity in general. Twilight Princess. Age of Calamity provides a huge change to the typical Zelda formula. For one, the dial is turned almost all the way down on the puzzle solving popularized by games such as A Link to the Past and Ocarina of Time, like the original Hyrule Warriors has done. In response, the dial is turned up to 11 in terms of combat. The fighting throughout the game sports the signature 1 vs 1000 gameplay of other games in the Warriors genre. Each character plays completely different. No two characters play exactly alike, and I believe that that's possibly the game's greatest strength. For example, Mipha the Zora is mostly a light attack character, but she features the ability to heal and can move really fast. Impa is also a lightweight character, but she can clone herself and utilizes many teleportation moves. And of course, Link is a well-rounded character who can be completely customized by the player in terms of weapons, attacks, and clothing. Along with individual moves, all characters have access to the 4 runes from Breath of the Wild. Magnesis, pretty self-explanatory, which gives the player a large magnet. Status, which stops items and enemies in place. Cryonis, which creates medium-sized towers of ice over the water, or can just drop ice on enemies. And finally, remote bombs, which of course cause explosions. What makes the inclusion of the runes cool is the fact that each character utilizes them differently. For example, when Link uses remote bombs, he throws them normally, but when Zelda uses them, she deploys a robot that shoots them out. Additionally, all of the characters can use fire, ice, or electric rods, which are gathered from defeating Wizrobes of those respective elements. Speaking of characters, the roster in this game is its best aspect, hands down. There are about 20 or so characters, and like I mentioned earlier, no two play alike. Besides the obvious characters like Link and Zelda, of course they're here, there are numerous secret characters that are unlocked through extended side quests or mini challenges. These characters are easily the most unique and unexpected, but they do happen to be the hardest to control. I'll speak more about these characters in the spoiler section at the end of this video, But for now, all I can say is that when it comes to characters, this game provides more than enough in terms of both quality and quantity. Story of both ages and seasons. What makes Age of Calamity truly unique in comparison to the rest of the gargantuan Zelda franchise is its story, but more accurately, the way the game tells its story. The story itself shows the player what conspired 100 years ago, before the events of Breath of the Wild. Put simply, Link, Zelda, Impa, and the champions must stop the Yiga clan, specifically its leader, Master Koga, and his assistant, Suga, as well as a mysterious warlock who are trying to summon Calamity Ganon, the main antagonist. However, the game takes many twists and turns, so don't expect a bland and generic story. Personally speaking, going into this story, I thought that I knew everything that would occur, but I could not have been any more wrong. Full of surprises, this game is a true gift to Zelda fans. The game's main quests and side missions are organized via the map of Hyrule from Breath of the Wild, and I find this to be an intriguing way of calling back to the original game. The story missions in this game are exactly what they sound like, story missions with cutscenes and all, and there are about 7 Korok seeds, give or take, in each level to collect. Of course, the aspect of Breath of the Wild that everybody was hoping would return, Korok seeds. That was sarcasm, Korok seeds suck. But regardless of their past in the franchise, in this game, Korok seeds are used to upgrade characters and unlock new skills, so they were kind of necessary for the 100% and weren't as daunting as they were in Breath of the Wild. Luckily, they aren't as bad as they were in that game, and with the help of online maps, I managed to collect them all. The rest of the game's side missions give the player either new skills, new recipes, or on occasion new characters. At first I was charmed by these side quests, but near the end of the completion experience, these became such a pain to play through, and got a bit monotonous. One extremely cool aspect of Breath of the Wild that's carried over into Age of Calamity, and really makes it stick out compared to other Warriors games, is the Divine Beasts. In Breath of the Wild, these large machines are important to the story, as they house the spirits of the champions that used to pilot them. Since you're playing as the champions in this game, and they're awesome, you actually get to control the Divine Beasts and wreak havoc on Ganon's forces. My favorite by far was Vah Ruta, the elephant-looking mech, since it could spray water and moved at a decent speed. All of the beasts have greatly differing movesets and movement styles, aside from the focus beam firing special attack, which all of them share. Diminished details. Speaking of minuter details, there are quite a few interesting things about this game. The game's soundtrack is for the most part the same as Breath of the Wild, but there are a few original bangers made specifically for this game. Plus, a very clever Easter egg references Zelda's Lullaby from Ocarina of Time, but I won't go into details to avoid completely spoiling it. On a different note, the game's visual style is of course the same as Breath of the Wild, but I'd say that the devs really increased the quality of character models and lighting, since that game launched in 2017 alongside the Switch. It goes to show how much more familiar developers are becoming with the hardware, which is a good sign for Breath of the Wild 2. However, some of the Switch's worst aspects are also highlighted by this game, as you'll see. I mean, Joy-Con drift is, but that's not specifically this game. We'll see. The cooking mechanic returns from Breath of the Wild, and dishes function as boosters for the player. Personally, I never really used them except for some boss rush missions. They're not that useful, but still fun to collect, I guess. Additionally, Link costumes return, and can be unlocked through numerous methods. I'm glad that these returned, but I'm a little disappointed that the developers did not take the opportunity to also add in costumes for all of the characters. There are a few for Zelda, mostly a winter outfit and a light outfit, and exactly one costume for each of the champions, but that's about it. Fortunately, weapon durability has not returned from Breath of the Wild. Instead, the characters unlock new weapons after each mission, and they can be upgraded through the blacksmith on the map. Now here's the issue I was talking about. One of the most glaring issues with this game is the frame rate and how slow it will get at times. While I only really noticed it when the screen got extremely packed, it was at its worst in the Gerudo Desert area, it was still a problem, and it was more noticeable to some other people online. The frame rate is of course not a problem with the game itself, but rather with the Nintendo Switch, like with the 3DS Hyrule Warriors, which was improved with a new Nintendo 3DS. However, it's still worth mentioning here, as it could possibly take away from some people's experiences. Finally, can we just take a moment to discuss my favorite character, at least personality-wise, in this game? Impa is such an offbeat, goofy character, even if she's eventually supposed to become a wise elder in 100 years. The funniest parts of this game for me were her little brawls and tussles with Teriko the robot, and I wish we got to spend more time with this younger, goofier version of Impa. A Link Between Timelines. For the first half of the game's story, the Yiga clan, specifically Master Koga and Suga, are teased as the main antagonists, but they are assisted by a villainous sorcerer named Astor. About 3/4 into the game, Astor harvests the souls of Yiga clan members, shocking and disheartening the goofy Master Koga, who challenges the warlock, resulting in a clash that leaves Suga dead. One of the best characters, honestly. With revenge in mind, Koga runs off to join the forces of Hyrule to stop Astor and Ganon himself. This arc for the clumsy and farcical ninja makes him a better character than he ever was in Breath of the Wild. Koga went from a comic relief boss in the first game to a deepish, and motivated anti-hero in this one. Similarly, most of the characters in this game are given much more depth and thought than in Breath of the Wild, because in Breath of the Wild, gameplay was featured more heavily than story. Of course, the champions are given more depth, with their relationships with Link and Zelda further developed. Specifically, Rivali's feud with Link, Mipha's crush on Link, and Urbosa's maternal relationship with Zelda are explored in great detail. Additionally, Impa is given an actual personality, like I mentioned earlier. However, the greatest characterization by far is Princess Zelda herself, as she is given quite the character arc. Her journey discovering her Triforce of Wisdom powers are shown, and she is truly at the heart of this game's narrative. King Rome is also shown to be the typical dad who doesn't want his daughter to get hurt, but he eventually comes back around and he's not that bad. I've saved the biggest returning characters for last, however. This is the biggest spoiler problem. Halfway through the story, the events of Age of Calamity appear to be coming to an end, as King Rowan has seemingly died, and the champions, stuck in the Divine Beasts with the Blight Ganons, have one foot in the grave. These events are, of course, supposed to happen according to Breath of the Wild. Fortunately, all of a sudden, portals from Teriko the Eggbot, or Egbert as I like to call him, spawn over the Divine Beasts, and the younger champions all appear from the future. Sidon, the sister of Mipha, Riju, the descendant of Urbosa, Unibo, the descendant of the Rook, and Tiba, a future fan of Rivali, all become playable once you save their respective adult champions with them. These characters each have pretty difficult and gimmicky movesets to master, and are easily the deepest playable characters in the game. Following this reveal, the champions do not end up dying. Astor fuses with Calamity Ganon, Teriko sacrifices himself, helping Link kill Ganon and Astor, and the younger champions go back to the future. This twist was originally a welcome one, since I got to play as more great characters from Breath of the Wild, and because time travel is always a lot of convoluted fun. I eventually realized the ramifications of the deviation from the main timeline with two possibilities. Either this game never really happened in the Breath of the Wild universe, or this game will affect Breath of the Wild 2. I'm not sure which is going to happen. After a lot of aimless pondering, I just accepted that this game is most likely an Elseworlds scenario, and that even if it never really happened, by playing the first half of this game, before the future characters appear, then you are basically playing through the main timeline's events. So if the story bothers you that much, just play through the first half and pretend that the second half didn't happen. Skyward Rewards. Besides the story, let's discuss the completion of this game. To 100% this game, I needed to unlock every new skill for each character, collect all of the Korok seeds, complete every main and side mission, unlock all the characters, and fulfill requests for villagers. By the way, requests are just points of interest on the map where you trade in items to different NPCs for rewards. They're kind of lame, but still extra stuff to do. The game displays a completion percentage in the middle of the map, touting the Link costume from the original Hyrule Warriors game as a completion bonus for those who go the full 100%. More on that later, as there are many more surprises for completionists in the late game. Like I alluded to before, collecting all of the Korok seeds directly does nothing, but they are necessary to unlock new abilities for characters and fulfill some requests. As you play through the side missions, you'll eventually come across some with unlockable playable characters. The Great Fairies, as a collective, are the first characters, and they are unlocked by completing 3 fairy fountain quests against them, then confronting all 3 of them as a whole. Monk Maz Kashia is the next character. I'm hoping I pronounced that right. And he is unlocked by beating him in battle, like in Breath of the Wild. His gimmick is that the player must collect energy via items before using powerful attacks. After beating the main game, Calamity Ganon, Feuds of Astor's vessel, kinda gross, can be unlocked in an extremely hard boss trial-like mission. His gimmick is that he can corrupt enemies and absorb their life force, which eventually results in a Malice laser. Finally, the late Tereko, bless his heart, can be unlocked by collecting all of his parts once the main story is complete. After unlocking him, a secret cutscene and new credits are unlocked, showing Zelda and the gang rebuilding the little dude. What a man. Each sector of the map that you complete gives you a piece of clothing with some sort of resistance, such as fireproof earrings unlocked, I'm pretty sure, in the Goron area. Finally, as aforementioned, for 100% completing the entire game, you unlock a Hyrule Warriors outfit for Link. While this game was most assuredly a pain to complete, in the last 5 hours or so especially, it is an amazing entry to the Legend of Zelda series and helps to further develop the Breath of the Wild universe within the greater Zelda multiverse. And I'll accept the Warriors outfit for my struggles. Would I complete this game again if I had to? Yes. Will I complete it again anytime soon? Probably not. If you're wondering whether or not you should complete this game, I'd say it's worth it if you like the action-focused gameplay. Now here's my overview. Age of Calamity is an amazing prequel to Breath of the Wild, and a worthy follow-up to the original Hyrule Warriors. It is welcoming for new Zelda fans, but also takes numerous twists and turns to entertain those who played Breath of the Wild. Minus its few flaws and missed opportunities, Age of Calamity is a legendary step forward for the Legend of Zelda series. My playtime, in case you're wondering, was 75 hours, and the score I'll give this game is a 9 out of 10. And the completion summary is, this game is way easier to complete than the original Hyrule Warriors, and it's not too harrowing, but a bit grindy to 100%. The rewards for doing so are satisfying, as long as you enjoy the gameplay and the hack and slash combat. That's it for my first video game review. Comment down below what games you'd like to see me review. I'm not sure if I'll do them because I have some coming up, but we'll see. And remember to like and subscribe for more Zelda and Nintendo content.